Hello. I want to help you with your broad outline of the gospel of Christ and to give you some insights as to how it might be more effective in terms of your communication. The first thing I'd like to say about an outline of the gospel, that it should include Christ. Christology, or the Christ event, is a core element to the gospel. It's about what Christ has done, where he's come from, who he is, and in fact what he's doing now. So let me encourage you to make Christ the core of any gospel presentation, Christology. And this is obviously more than simply what's contained in the gospel accounts, but pertains even to the prophetic words about him prior to his coming, and also relate to the pastoral letters in terms of what he's done on our behalf. So make Christ the core of any gospel presentation and you'll be safe. But Christ needs to be put into context. And the first contextual issue for you to consider is human nature. Human nature, in terms of who we are and what we've done and what is our destiny, is critical. It's about why Christ has come to us. It's given our past and our current needs and our future destiny, we need to consider human nature as a very important contextual issue in terms of the gospel about Christ. It pertains to who we are as much as about who Christ is. The next element in terms of context is that of God. God forms the context of the gospel of Christ. It's about who he is and what God has done and what God plans to do in terms of the future. And this too is about why Christ has come to the earth, but in terms of from God's perspective, not simply our own perspective. So in terms of the gospel being about Christ, set in the context of human nature and in the context of God's nature, we also need to understand the means by which the goodness or the benefits of the gospel are obtained. And the first thing is a recognition of grace. Grace is about the life that is given to us by God, and in ultimate terms, the life that's given to us through Christ. God's manifold grace toward humanity is expressed in ultimate terms through Christ. And this, in fact, defies human nature and defies our own efforts at securing our own eternal well-being. So this is a very important issue in terms of grace. Grace forms the context. And I mean, we can start from the beginning in terms of the very nature of creation. The air that I breathe and the water that I drink and the food that I eat, these are by grace. And the ultimate expression of grace is made available to human natures in and through the person of Christ. But that grace needs to be obtained, and this is the other element of the means of the gospel, that grace is obtained through faith. And that faith is an expression of surrender to the will of God. It's a surrender that secures us, God's grace, through a trusting surrender to God in Christ Jesus. And the very nature of faith is more than simply intellectual assent, and it's more than trusting him for the temporary things of life. It is ultimately putting our full weight and resting our very lives into the hands of God, and namely into the hands of Christ. So I wish you the best in terms of your gospel presentations, but these are the elements that form it, and a good creative presentation will enable you to use illustrations to illustrate these points that I've made. Thanks.